Hey everyone, this week we're at Texas Motor Speedway in the NASCAR iRacing Class C Open Series. And I've got the fixed setup loaded, and I'm going to go out here and run a couple laps and see how this thing feels, and then that'll give us a baseline for how we improve the setup over the course of this session. I'm going to try to make as many improvements as I possibly can within a short period of time, and we'll see how we do. Alright, so as you saw, that first lap was completely wide open. I was able to run a 21, which is pretty decent, and I try to run wide open through 1 and 2 on the second lap, and I just can't quite do it, so I'm going to abort this run and see what we can do to the setup to make it so we can run a little bit longer wide open. We should be able to run a couple laps wide open. So let's kind of dive into the garage here and see what we got. Overall, I kind of felt a little bit of a lack of grip. So what might help that is adjusting the tire pressures depending where they are. 51 on the right here. We might be able to gain a little grip by going down on the tire pressures. So I'm going to do that first, and I'm going to try running this. Alright, so overall, that felt like I had a little bit more grip, so I think I'm going to leave that. Although I did run a little bit slower, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. When you're racing here at a track where you gotta hold it wide open, sometimes, you know, a setup that's really good on a fast lap isn't so great over the course of a run, so likewise a change that you make might be really good for one lap and not so great for the rest of the run. So I'm pretty confident that those right side pressure that dropping the right side pressures is going to help me quite a bit. Typically we don't run this much split between the left side and right side. We try to keep the tire pressures relatively close. I'm gonna raise mine to 37, and I'm also gonna try this and see how it feels. For this week at Texas, well, this is probably a better bet as far as, you know, tire pressure, just because this is a pretty fast track, and you don't want your left side pressures too low, because that's gonna hurt your speed. Alright, so the truck actually felt pretty good that lap, and the lap time showed it. I was able to pick up a little bit of speed. I dropped down to a 17. And typically during any race week, you want to really focus in on your tire pressures and making sure you get those right first. If you don't, then you might be making changes to a setup that isn't quite optimized as far as the tire pressures go. So that's why it's on the first page. I always joke, it's on the first page because that's what you need to look at first. Tire pressures are extremely important. So as I switch pages here to the chassis and other components, I noticed right away that our tape configuration is set at 25. And that's a little bit low. I think around 50% should be good for this week. But let's go ahead and test this out a little bit and see how it affects our lap times. This should make quite a big difference. 25% is quite a lot, so I'm hoping this picks us up a little bit of speed. Alright, we picked up a little bit more time. We're down to a 14, which is pretty decent. I'm going to try to... Yeah, I couldn't quite run wide open through 1 and 2 there on the second lap, but I'm getting closer to my goal there, being able to run wide open a little bit longer. Let's see here. Let's go back to the garage and let's see what else we can do to our setup to help it turn. That's the main thing I'm feeling right now, is the truck is a little bit tight, so we gotta loosen it up and get some pressure off that right front tire because it feels like that right front is getting most of the workload. So I'm going to go down on the ballast here. We had 4, and I'm going down to 0. The higher this number, the more weight on the front of the vehicle. So we'll go back up to 4 and hit apply. And you'll see the nose weight and cross weight is affected by this. And overall, goes down 0.2%. I typically try not to run ballast if I possibly can, but in some situations you might need to. In this week, I don't know if we'll need to. I think we can leave the ballast out of it and still be doing fine as far as drivability goes. Typically, you run ballast when you're having trouble with drivability. The car is just not stable, or truck in this situation is just not stable. But I'm not really fighting that issue right now, so I'm going to take it out. I think I messed up a little bit in the turn 3 there, and I slid up the track through the middle of 3 and 4. So for me to run a 14 on that lap, I definitely feel like that's an improvement. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that change. Another big thing we can do to help this truck turn is we can start playing with the spring rate. And typically, to get the car to turn, a lot of times I'll go up on the right rear spring. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to hold shift and click once. That's going to bring me up to 1025. And just holding shift helps the increments change a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and apply that change, and we'll go see how much this helps the truck turn. Hoping it doesn't make it too loose, but I really think that this should be a positive change. I'm still feeling a little bit too tight, and got to get the truck to turn, so I'm now resorting to adjusting the spring. Through 1 and 2 there, it definitely has helped this truck quite a bit. I don't even need to run the rest of the lap to know that I've made a very good change to this setup, because I'm just not having to put as much wheel into it, which in turn is helping that right front tire, lose a little bit of the load. So down to an 0.3, that was over a 10th pickup. That's definitely a good change. Might even consider going a little bit more on that change. Eventually, though, you got to be careful. If you go up too far on the right rear spring, you'll see that the ride height also raises with this adjustment. So you don't want the ride height too high, especially at a place like Texas, because that's going to put the rear spoiler in the air. Not necessarily what we want, and it'll definitely slow us down the straightaways. Before we make that change, though, let's go ahead and max out these rear cambers. Typically, max rear camber is the quickest way to go, and I'm just going to apply this really quick, run a quick lap, and just see if I can run a little bit faster. But overall, my past experience, I know that running max rear camber in the truck has been good in the past, so I'm feeling pretty confident. But that probably is faster because over the course of the run, as the tires start to wear, and you just can't run enough camber to be quite optimized. I have it maxed out right now, and because it's maxed out, and I just don't have a lot of wiggle room, so it's likely that something beyond what is the maximum is ideal, because that's what we always end up running, is the maximum. I did pick up a little bit of time, so let's try to go ahead and go through turns 1 and 2 wide open on our second lap. Let's see if we can do it. Hey, we were able to do it. So we've definitely made some great improvements. The fixed setup could not get through 1 and 2 without, definitely letting off the throttle. I just would kill the wall off turn 2 if I didn't. So that is a really great improvement so far. Let's go ahead and keep going and see how much better we can make it. One adjustment I really think would improve the setup is possibly going up on the right rear track bar height. And the track bar, if you go up on the right rear, it will definitely help the truck turn, especially late exit. And I feel like, although the truck feels pretty good handling wise, it could start to get a little bit of tight, over the course of the run. So this is just an adjustment to help me see, if I can still control it, I probably would end up running a higher right rear track bar height. But if I have trouble controlling it, that means, I'm definitely gonna wear out that right rear tire and it's not gonna be worth running. So far, so good. Okay, so overall that definitely was not too loose. I'm going to leave this adjustment. I think my pedals actually flickered on the backstretch, which caused me to lose a little bit of time, which is really not good. You've got to make sure that see, actually through 3 and 4 there, they flickered just a tiny bit there. And let's see. Yeah, down the front stretch here, I wasn't getting full throttle. So that typically means that you need to recalibrate your pedals. And actually just did a trade show with with this exact setup. So people are kind of rough with the pedals, and looks like I need to recalibrate. But hopefully this will fix it. If not, I might need to invest in a new set of pedals. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna actually short calibrate this, so I'm just not going completely wide open, and I'm not letting completely out of it. So that means it's not, the throttle's not gonna hang, and it's definitely gonna go wide open, hopefully. So just a quick tip there: always monitor, make sure you're getting full throttle when you have the throttle all the way down. So let's see here. One thing I did notice, actually, if we go to the replay, this truck has a tendency to pick up the left front a little bit. And I'm going into the replay editor mode here, the camera options, and you can see that right front is a little bit lower than the left front. And just because the left front is higher here doesn't mean it's physically higher. Sometimes the deviations in the physical track versus the visible track there's a little bit of discrepancy there. So it's good to scroll through a few frames here just to get a general sense of what the suspension is doing. And overall, yeah, I'd say that the right front is definitely lower consistently over the course of this turn here. So I'm going to lower the left front down a little bit, and hopefully that'll help us a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a lap, make sure I didn't break the setup. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so yeah, I did pick up a little bit of time there. Not bad. I was hoping to pick up a little more speed, but that's always the case. So let's go jump back into the garage here. And what else can we change? There's the gear, but that typically you only have a couple of choices. And the 380 gear is definitely better in this situation. We don't want to have a lower gear. It's just going to bog off the turns. One thing that's pretty important that I kind of overlooked at near the beginning was the cambers. So let's go ahead and adjust these cambers. I'm going to go up 1 degree on both sides. Let's give that a try and see how that plays out. So cambers are the amount of angle the tire is leaning when the car is static on pit road or in the garage. You measure camber then, and then when the car loads up in the turns, as the weight shifts, it helps the tire actually even out, and it actually maximizes the amount of tire you have in the turns, which is where you gain most of your speed. So that was a little bit faster yet, picked up about 200. So you know what, I think I want to add a little bit more camber. So let's go into the garage, and believe that the maximum that you can run on the left front is 8. So let's go ahead and try 8. Okay, 8's a little too much. We'll do 7.9, which flickers and then runs. It'll switch to 8. And let's add a little bit more right front camber too. And that actually makes my preload a little bit too high. So let's go ahead and go down a little bit. Yeah, so 3.5. And then my truck arm preload is also too low, so let's go ahead and fix that. Okay. Let's give that a shot. Alright, we were able to get down to a 28.97. That was with the camber change. I'm feeling pretty happy with the setup. It definitely feels fine. At this point, you know, I'm not really adjusting for handling. I'm just seeing, making some changes and just seeing if it's faster. I'm not really feeling anything completely something that needs to be fixed necessarily. So a lot of times you'll get to this point where you feel like, wow, the truck or the car feels pretty good. I don't know what else to change. Keep changing and see what happens. See if you can pick up a little speed here and there. It'll definitely help. If you just keep clicking around and trying to learn constantly, it definitely helps. So let's go ahead and I want to max out this right rear track bar and just see. Okay, so we have a limit here. We can't go beyond 3 inches of split. So let's actually, yeah, so let's try 12 on the left rear and 15 on the right rear. See how that goes. It might be a little too loose for me, but we'll see if I can hang on to it. So I definitely got a little loose through 3 and 4 there, and that's exactly what hurt my speed. But as the run goes on, the fuel is going to burn off, which means there's going to be more weight in the front of the car or truck, as you can see right here through 3 and 4. It's got a little bit free right there. You can see really good right there from this angle. And wasn't able to, you know, recover from that point. You know, if you mess up any little bit on a track where you're wide open, it's gonna hurt the lap times. So I'm debating, you know, whether or not to take that change out or go back a little bit on that change. I'm gonna actually go down half an inch on both sides. We'll see I think that's a happy balance actually. So we'll keep that and see here. Shocks are kind of mysterious in the iRacing community. I, I don't believe that they're too realistic, but I'm gonna max out the fronts here and just see what this does. Sometimes it's slower, sometimes it's faster. You just gotta really play with the shocks in order to get the right settings. And it varies track to track sometimes too. So you just gotta really give a good work through. Just see what actually is faster. And a lot of times I just test it, see if it works, and then if it doesn't work, then I go back. Alright, so that didn't really make a whole lot of difference, but I didn't get wide open that whole lap. My pedals seemed to flicker again a little bit, so didn't seem to change too much. So I'm gonna leave that change and let's see if I can get that point. See, yeah, off turn 2, having some issues with my pedals here. Yeah, it kind of flickered down the back stretch, so that definitely cost us a little bit of time. So at this point, I feel pretty good about the setup, so I'm going to save it and save as 2017 Texas Truck Data Pack, and click Save, Overwrite, yes, that's what we want. And at this point, I think I'm ready to do a 45 lap run just to see where we're at. And see how good the setup is. I'm going to push it to the limits. And the races this week are a little bit longer, but 45 laps will give us a good estimate as to where we are for this setup, and if we need to make any more adjustments for the long run. So we've identified an issue with this setup over the course of a full run. You'll see here through 1 and 2 getting really sideways, and I just have to fight the wheel like crazy just to get it to stay under me, and that's really not ideal. And let's see, we're working about like lap 15 here, which is just, I mean, at this point in the run we should be pretty solid. Maybe near the end of the run this would be more normal. So you can see me in there just like kind of fighting the wheel. So we need to just find a way to make this a little bit more controllable, especially just halfway through the run and onwards, because the first part of it is pretty decent. So let's see here. What do we have to work with? I don't want to go up any more on the left side tire pressures. And, we could take more left front camber out. Let's do that. We'll go down to 6. And then also the track bar is still up at 14. I'm going to go to 12. We got to make some pretty big adjustments here in order to get the truck to be more stable throughout the course of the run here. And, another thing we can do is we can increase the front anti-roll bar, the diameter of that, and that will tighten the truck as well. It helps the truck not roll over so much on that right front too, which should help us quite a bit, because remember that left front was picking up a little bit. So okay, I think also I'm going to go up 1 click on the left rear spring, and this should be significantly better, but let's go ahead and give it a try and see what it does. Alright, so that was our 45 lap run here in the C Open Series, and take a note, my tires after that run were 66.56, which are It's not bad. Well, actually, we kind of want a little bit more wear on the right rear than the right front. That might be a little bit more than what I was hoping for, but if you do need any help controlling the vehicle, I recommend just going down on the right rear track bar until you feel comfortable. Also, if you want to try to improve the setup even further, you might want to try adding back a little bit left front camber and then maybe going down on the crossweight. The crossweight right now is at 55.3. That can easily be changed by adjusting the spring perch offsets here. And as you can see, if I go to the right on that, I went to the right 3 clicks, now it's at 55.9. The cross weight. So that is the setup that I am going to release to you guys. No changes from that 45 lap run. I'm going to click save as, save current setup, yes, and then we will save this as is without that cross weight adjustment or any track bar changes. This feels pretty good to me. I think that I could do some pretty good races with this. So let's jump out of iRacing and then we'll hop over to VRS really quick. So I'm going to show you guys really quick the stint analyzer tool. We'll go to change selection up at the top, and I'm going to compare the cFixed data pack to the run I just did. So I'm going to select myself, and let's see. Yep, this 45 lap run is the one I just did. And I'm going to select stint number 1. Now over here we can show the we'll show me, and then we'll show Camping World Truck Silverado, and then we will show the 45 lap run I did with the fixed setup. So this is comparing the 2 runs, and we can see how much better we made the setup. So as you can see on my first lap, over 0.2 faster. Lap 2 was over 0.3 faster. So throughout this whole run, I start to not have as big as an advantage here, but it's still about over a tenth, sometimes 0.2 a lap. And over the course of the run, I was about 10.7 seconds faster. And you might be thinking, well, at Martinsville, we were 33 seconds faster. Well, you know, the setup was quite a bit off there, and there wasn't as much time to improve. But 10.7 seconds with 2 setups that started off going wide open here, you can load up this first lap and see very clearly that you know, I was completely wide open for both laps, just holding more speed through the center, down the front stretch. I mean, the entire lap, I'm just holding about over 1 mile per hour more with the open setup that we just created. So that's just so useful. And let's see here. I was almost half a second faster here on lap 10. Kind of, you know, not as much of an advantage here, you know, by lap 30 or whatever, but actually lap 35 and 36 were my only 2 laps that I was slower than the fixed setup, but overall just completely dominated the fixed setup here. So be sure to download the setup and give cOpen a try. That's it for this week, guys. I'm going to let you go. Hope you have a great week of racing, and Texas should be a lot of fun, so let me know how you do, and hope you enjoy the setup. We'll see you next time.